live on a Monday night following another edition of Monday Night Raw. My name's Jose Ramos Jr., bringing you another live stream following, of course, a Monday Night Raw. It's a Monday night. Why wouldn't we be talking about pro wrestling on a Monday evening? Hopefully, you guys enjoyed your weekend. Hopefully, you enjoyed the Super Bowl. I mean, it wasn't really a competitive game, with all due respect. But I look at it and I was like, you know what? Going into it, you guys knew I wasn't a big fan. Wasn't a fan of either team. I'm a San Francisco guy. So it was difficult for me to watch the game and be invested in the Chiefs and the Eagles. I really wanted both to lose, but nonetheless, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. No three-peat. But with that being said, we're talking Monday Night Raw. I see Kevin in the chat here. Kevin, what's going on, my friend? Appreciate you. Glad to see you here on a Monday evening. Kevin says, Jose, good to see you. Always good to see you as well, my friend. What did I miss on tonight's Raw? Hey, we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive right into it. WrestleMania bigger than the Super Bowls. I mean, at least this one for sure. This last Super Bowl, I mean, when I say it was one of the worst, I'm not saying it's like a negative connotation. I'm just saying it wasn't competitive. You know, for the Super Bowl, we want it to be one of the most competitive games of the season. You want to see two of the best teams in the NFL duke it out in the game of the year, and that's not what we got. That's not what we got. But what a segue, because the Super Bowl is the biggest game of the NFL. WrestleMania, the biggest show, the Super Bowl of wrestling. And we're what, a little under 10 weeks away from the show of shows, the granddaddy of them all, the grand spectacle, WrestleMania 41. Nacho Camacho, happy Monday. What's going on? Glad to see you here on a Monday edition of the live stream. Monday Night Raw just came to a conclusion, and we got a couple of new additions to the Elimination Chamber matches, both for the men and the women. We're going to wait for a little bit more people here to arrive on the stream here, and what I wanted to do, of course, talk about Monday Night Raw. It's topical, but also give you guys an opportunity to have like more of a visual. So usually, typically, I like to carry my notes. I like to have notes already in place about the different talking points about what I'm going to be speaking about for the stream. Talking about Monday Night Raw. Talking about the action that we saw take place. But given that we have our new little layout here for the streams, again, shout out to Sanfran5 for helping me out with that. We can have a little bit of a visual. And with that being said, Monday Night Raw, coming from Nashville, Tennessee, what they kept calling it as Smashville. How apropos. And also, I guess send a shout out here to George Kittle, tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. He was in attendance for tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. Golden Tate as well, a former Super Bowl champion. But the show itself, I thought, was a good show. You know, it set the tone for what we're going to be expecting in the lead up to the Elimination Chamber. It set the tone for the future stories leading into WrestleMania. So we have a little bit of an idea of where we're going in terms of the structure leading into the show of shows. Of course, the show itself would kick off with Jey Uso. I mean, the Royal Rumble winner. A lot of people were not happy with his win at the Royal Rumble, at least online. But if you watch the shows, if you watch the Monday Night Raws, the Friday Night SmackDowns, you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't even know it because the crowds are on fire for Jey Uso to the point where every time he comes out, the fans are asking for an encore of his theme music so they can yeet along with the Yeet Man himself, Jey Uso. That's not something you can fabricate. That's not something that you can manufacture as a company and plant that into the minds of the audience. You see, that is organic. Kevin says, Jay, one move Uso. What are your thoughts on people saying that? Jay super kick Uso. I mean, hey, when it comes to pro wrestling, I've always talked about it's a buffet for everybody. Sometimes you're going to like one thing over the other. Some people might not be fans of Jey Uso, and that's totally fine. The super kick, yes. But here's the thing with the super kick. The super kick is a move that has been overdone over the course of the last generation of pro wrestling. Look at the indies. PWG, all the guys that came out of there. I'm talking Kevin Steen. I'm talking the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Jey Uso's not the only guy to use the super kick at an abhorrent amount of times. But for me, it's more than just the moves, it's the story. We talk about pro wrestling, of course, taking place within the squared circle, within the ropes. That's where it counts. But if I'm able to develop a level of investment in the person that is telling that story, sometimes it overrides that. Look at a guy like the Ultimate Warrior. And I'm not going to compare the Ultimate Warrior here to Jey Uso, but stick with me here. As a lifelong pro wrestling fan, I tell you, I have a point. The Ultimate Warrior was known for these big muscle moves, the big splash onto his opponent and running around the ring. You help me out and tell me, did he have an extensive move set? Because he didn't. But because of the entrance, because of the look, because of the persona, because of the connection with the crowd, he got so over that he beat their top guy, Hulk Hogan. Now, again, I'm not saying that Jey Uso is going to be the next Ultimate Warrior, but there are other ingredients that are taken into consideration when you're getting over as a star, and Jey Uso has it. The connection, he has the catchphrase, he has the look, and I think he has the athleticism. They want to talk about the super kick. Hey, guilty. A lot of guys, overuse the super kick. But let's not act like he can't go. I think a lot of people hold on to the fact that he had the bad match against against Jimmy at WrestleMania 40. It was one certainly that kind of let us down for a brother versus brother matchup. Shout out to Sylvia in the chat here. Sylvia in the chat. Good to see you here. I'm glad you're able to join us on a Monday evening. I'm hoping that your weekend treated you right. Sylvia here in the chat says, Sylvia, girl in the house, Ray's match was a great match, even though my man lost. Oh, we're going to get to that. I got opinions about that. Love Ray. Obviously, if you guys are familiar with the stream, you guys know that he was one of the only wrestlers that I ever met in my life. But still, regardless, Rey Mysterio has always had a special part in our hearts as a family here. So we'll get to that. Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio did have their qualifying matchup for the Elimination Chamber. Kevin says that Jimmy should beat Gunther. I think he will. I really do. I think that we're going to get to that point where Jey Uso is going to defeat Gunther. My only question is, where does that leave Gunther? Because then that means that he's going to be 0-2 at WrestleMania. 0-2 at WrestleMania for Gunther, who is arguably one of the best wrestlers the WWE has right now. In my opinion, Gunther is established. Yeah, absolutely. 666 days as the IC champion. He's been the world champion for roughly 6 months maybe, give or take. I might be wrong. We won it in August, September, October, November, December, January, February, 6 months. He's an established guy. I saw a stat. It's a very well-known stat that he has held the championship. He has held a championship in the WWE throughout the course of his career for like over 80% of the time. He's a champion more times than not. I mean, Gunther is a perennial star. Kevin says he can easily get another world title match. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Gunther for sure. Jey Uso doesn't strike me as the type to be a perennial champion. I think we're going to give him this opportunity. He's going to win the title, see what he can do with it. But yeah, Gunther is not going anywhere. Eventually, he will win the WWE title. I strongly believe that. Kevin says, whereas in this moment, Jey has had his Mania moment. Jey can have his Mania moment, yes. Very much like Kofi Mania. And I think that's been the common comparison here between Jey and Kofi. They had a whirlwind of support, momentum on their side. The fans want it. So let's capitalize on it. Strike when the iron's hot. Jey Uso never won a world championship. Here's that opportunity to create something memorable. I love it. Kevin says Rey versus Penta was the first time two Mexican wrestlers opened up the Rumble. Isn't that crazy to think about? Yeah. I suppose so. I never really thought about that. Because Rey has opened up the Rumble. He was number 2 against Triple H at the number 1 spot. He's opened in 2009 against John Morrison. Yeah, I suppose so. I never took that into consideration. But to see those two go at it in the history that they have, obviously in Lucha Underground, and that protege and mentor relationship that the two have, the level of respect, love, and admiration that they have between each other, I couldn't think of a better pairing to start with. I kind of thought that they were going to go with like an Andrade versus Melo to start the Rumble, but to have Rey versus Penta, love it. But we're talking about Jey Uso. Jey Uso cashing in his opportunity here. He announces he's going to face Gunther for the World Championship. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's the right move. I love the way they handled it. They had Jey come out to a raucous ovation in Nashville. Gunther comes out, attacks him, beats him down, and Jey says, you know what, I've had it. Maybe this is the wrong call, but I want you, Gunther, at WrestleMania. So the stage is set. Las Vegas, Nevada, Allegiant Stadium, the Yeet Man versus the Ring General, Jey Uso and Gunther for the World Championship. I can't wait. Kevin says, yo, Jose, since you are Mexican, did you ever watch Lucha Libre? So growing up, I don't remember what channel it was, but I do remember like scanning the channels, channel surfing. And we used to get like AAA and CMLL on TV. So I can distinctly remember seeing guys like La Parca, wrestle. And I always remember La Parca because he had like the skeleton look with the hood, had the little dance to the ring. And this was before I even got to see old clips of WCW. So figuring out that he was there as well. So that was my, introduction to Lucha Libre. Aside from Rey Mysterio in the WWE, I would catch every now and then CMLL and AAA on the weekends. Kevin says, can we get a yeet? You better believe it. Yeet. He's going to win the World Championship. And the sooner that people, accept that, the sooner they can get on with it. Because I don't know what it is. A lot of people are against Jey. They're not a fan. I don't get it. I truly don't. You look at the crowds, man. They love Jey. Jey has earned this much. I mean, to see him organically get over, again, with the gear, with the music, with the charisma. What happened to pro wrestling saying, you know what, this guy's over? He's selling merch, so let's push him. It's as simple as that. It's good business. It just makes perfect sense to me. But some people don't want to accept it, I suppose. Nonetheless, WrestleMania 41, it's set. The first matchup, Gunther versus Jey Uso, World Championship. Part 4. Jey Uso's 0-3 against Gunther. I think this is where he finally gets the win over Gunther and wins the World Championship. Bold prediction right now. Regardless of who Cody Rhodes faced, Cody wins the title, or rather, he retains the title. Jey wins the title, and they have this moment in the ring like WrestleMania 20. That's my early prediction right then and there. I believe that. After the Jey Uso segment with Gunther, we had a great tag team match. I do want to say, Bleacher Report gave the segment an A, but Damage Control's Io Sky and Dakota Kai would take on Liv Morgan versus Raquel Rodriguez in a matchup that I wasn't really expecting to be as good. I thought it was going to be a throwaway tag team match. Didn't think we were going to get a lot of action, but we got a good amount of match out of these 4 women, and it was great to see Dakota Kai back, who's had quite the luck with injuries. I mean, she suffered a knee injury recently, had a concussion that took her out a couple weeks, but she returns with Io. They get a matchup against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez to the point where they get the victory. They get a huge win, earning a little bit of momentum for Damage Control as we await Asuka and Kairi Sane to make their return. Shout out to Dion here. Dion with the yeet in the chat. San Fran 5 says, I am the learning tree. Shout out to Jericho. But, I mean, for those who weren't able to see Monday Night Raw, Liv Morgan, man, put on a great performance. I mean, she had suffered a little bit of a gash, got hurt. I think it was during a spot here where Raquel Rodriguez had Liv Morgan in her arms and was kind of using her as like a battering ram against Damage Control. And at one point, her head kind of collided with, I believe it might have been Dakota. And the next time we saw Liv, we see a little bit of color coming down from the side of her face. Took it like a champ, finish off the matchup, high-octane offense that really highlighted all 4 women. And a huge victory for Io Sky, who in fact would even get a championship opportunity against the current reigning and defending Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley. That was announced going to be for the Raw after the Elimination Chamber. I thought Io was going to have an opportunity to re-enter the Chamber as like a second chance opportunity, but it might not be the case, and she's going to have a matchup then and there. Or maybe we see a triple threat somehow. Don't know. But again, a solid matchup for these 4 women. Should be very proud of that. Dion says, where's Kairi Sane? Injured. because apparently she had been attacked by the PFC, the Pure Fusion Collective, for quite some time now. It was during the build to the tournament for the IC title, the one that was won by Lyra Valkyria. The PFC would attack Kairi Sane, sidelining her. We haven't seen her since. In real life, I believe she sustained an injury of some sort. Don't quote me. I don't think I'll be able to tell you, because there's been a lot of injuries. The injury bug has been going around lately. That was a bad gash. Yeah, no, it was subtle, because you didn't see it at first, and then there was a shot on Liv Morgan where you started to see a little bit of color, and then the next time you saw Liv, nothing but red on one side of her face. But again, pulled through, had a solid outing. Those are the type of performances that earn the respect of not only your peers, but of the audience. So Liv Morgan, a great showing there. Io Sky is Io Sky. I mean, you guys know I'm biased when it comes to Io. Big fan of hers. Resembles a lot of her hero, Rey Mysterio, in terms of the athleticism and the lucha libre style. Bleacher Report gives this matchup a B+. I think that's, I don't know, man. B+, I could see it being an A- at least. It was a solid outing. I was a big fan of this matchup. We talk about the women. We talked about Lyra Valkyria and the Intercontinental Championship. Lyra has a championship qualifier against Bayley, and Bayley is going to be a little bit busy this week. I mean, Bayley is going to she had a match here on Monday Night Raw. Bayley then has a match on NXT Tuesday night where she will be facing Cora Jade. Then she has the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game on Friday. And then we're going to finish that up on Saturday for the NXT Women's Championship in a triple threat match that will see Bayley versus Roxanne Perez versus the champion, Julia. So Bayley has quite the week ahead of her. But how does she start this week off? How does she begin the week? Well, I'll tell you how. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria deliver another solid matchup. Back-to-back solid matchups, and back-to-back solid matchups for the women's division, which I think is very important to highlight here. Because some people like to criticize the Raw division specifically when it comes to Monday nights. But back-to-back showings here, solid performances. Lyra Valkyria is a young up-and-coming. You know, for people who aren't familiar with her work in NXT, she's a former NXT champion, having defeated Becky Lynch for the title about a year ago. Comes up to the main roster, and now is the IC champion, the inaugural IC champion, and is facing Bayley, someone that she looked up to because Bayley was one of the original 4 horsewomen in NXT back in 2014 to 2016. The 4 horsewomen, of course, being Bayley, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Sasha Banks, now known as Mercedes Moné. I talked about this in a previous stream, I believe it might have been Saturday's stream, where we discussed who was going to win, and my prediction was Bayley. I just thought it made sense because we're leading into the matchup here to the NXT, event where she's going to have her triple threat match. Why would you have her lose leading into this championship opportunity? You want to build her up. You want to make sure she's credible. Because if you're having her lose this matchup, it kind of hurts her credibility. But on the flip side, as the Intercontinental Champion, you can't be dropping matches willy-nilly like that. Lyra, it's not looking good. Come on now, you're representing the division now. You're an IC champion. And the only IC involved is I see you losing these matches. We can't be doing this, Lyra. And I like Valkyria. But I mean, it's clearly setting up a feud between her and Ivy Nile, which I think is the right move. Sometimes you gotta take a step backwards in order to take 2 steps forwards. Am I right? So with that being said, this kind of a loss, yes, it might seem detrimental to her run as the IC champion, but maybe it'll help in the long run. We're going to see her in an engaging feud, I'm hoping, against Ivy Nile. Have an IC title matchup. Hopefully they deliver because it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be detrimental to the perception of the title itself. Ivy Nile and Lyra have to deliver. They have to deliver. They can't get off on the wrong foot here when it comes to the IC championship. But nonetheless, Bayley, the former hugger, wins, defeats Lyra, qualifies for the chamber. Just like the men's, it's also star-studded. Bianca Belair, former champion. Alexa Bliss, former champion. Liv Morgan, former champion. And now Bayley. I see a trend. Former champion. It's a stacked card. The Chamber is shaping up to be quite the matchup here. Again, both for the men and the women. Bleacher Report rated this matchup here with a B, which is, I mean, hey, can't blame them. And then for one that I was looking forward to, AJ Styles, the phenomenal one of the best wrestlers of our generation, a TNA legend, and a legend from Japan, even, with his stint there, and a for sure Hall of Famer in the WWE. AJ Styles had been gone for a while, had an injury, came back, had a match with Mello, got injured again, and we hadn't seen him since, but a surprise return at the Royal Rumble, and a welcome sight because they brought back his original theme song with the WWE. They got rid of that other one, thank goodness. But AJ Styles comes out, talks about how it was a near career-ending injury that saw him sit on the sidelines. Makes a return at the Rumble, and who is he interrupted by? Well, I'll tell you, he's interrupted by the residential heel himself. Dirty, mustache and all, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. With a great ovation. The crowd loves to boo Dominic. And seeing him with a guy like AJ Styles, it just worked for me. It just worked. He seemed like he fit. It wasn't one of those deals where it's like, what the hell is AJ doing in a promo with Dominic? Dominic is a natural. I saw that the one fear of a lot of fans is that AJ is going to get caught in the Judgment Day vortex. That he shouldn't be feuding with them. I get it. I totally get it. But if you're going to work your way back into the division, it would make sense to be up against someone that's perennially on TV. And the Judgment Day have ruled the world of Monday Night Raw television for now, a couple years, really. They have this great, interaction between Dominic and Finn Balor. Dominic and AJ Styles. And it leads to a match being made. We're going to be seeing AJ Styles, the phenomenal one, against the dirty Dominic Mysterio, one-on-one, next week on Monday Night Raw. I believe it's in Charlotte, North Carolina. Should be a great showing for Dominic. It's an opportunity for AJ to get back in rhythm, get back in motion. And having a guy like AJ in the ring with Dominic, that's going to do wonders for a young Mysterio. Allow him to soak in that knowledge. And just because I want to see these two go at it, we don't really get to see these two have matches as often. Especially because they both were heels for quite some time there. But now, one-on-one, Dominic and AJ Styles. Next on the card. Well, first, AJ Styles promo. Bleacher Report gives it a C+. That's fine. There was nothing to write home about. It's not like something you're going to be remembering from years to come. But we get the World Tag Team title matchups. Tag Team titles on the line. The War Raiders. I'm so glad that they brought back the War Raiders. And they ditched the Viking Raiders or the Viking Experience. The War Raiders, a much more fitting name. They had it when they were in NXT as the champions. They're facing off against another pair of former NXT Tag Team champions, the Creed brothers. Now, for me, the result was never in doubt. It didn't make sense for me to have American Made win the championships right now. I know Chad Gable is urging them to win and to have some gold in the American Made stable alongside Ivy Nile, who's chasing the IC title, as I mentioned. But it just made sense. The War Raiders recently just won the titles. I don't think they're going to be playing hot potato with the tag team titles. So they're going to be holding on to it for a minute here. And that's fine. Because you don't want to decrease the value of a championship by having it hop around on every tag team. Never a fan of that. At least not if there's not a story or a valid reason behind it. The War Raiders would successfully defend their titles. The grade here by Bleacher Report, B+. Again, a solid episode of Raw so far. A lot of things have been above average. After that, we get the CM Punk promo. The CM Punk promo that led into the main event. But CM Punk, I mean, dude, one of, if not the best promos of our generation. I'm a big CM Punk guy. You guys already know that. I don't got to tell you. CM Punk talks about how his aspirations for WrestleMania are still very much alive. He may not have won the Royal Rumble, but he has an opportunity to rectify that by winning the Elimination Chamber and challenging Cody Rhodes. He talked about his promo with Cody Rhodes not too long ago, where he talked about saying, hey, a lot of times people are going to stab you in the back, but because I'm your real friend, I'm going to stab you in the front. And he's calling his shot. He's saying, I'm going to win the chamber. I'm going to cash in on Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, and I'm going to win the championship back. He runs down his opponents in the chamber, talks about Drew McIntyre, who is so scared of him and humiliated by losing one of the best Hell in a Cell matches in recent memory, that he had to run over to the Blue Brand on Friday nights. He talks about John Cena, who didn't even qualify for the chamber. He didn't have to bust his ass to get in there. No, he just called his shot and said, I'm going to be in the chamber. I'm going to be in the chamber, and that's it. And Punk says, I had to work. I had to qualify to get in this matchup, and I'll be damned if I'm not going to walk out and emerge as the rightful winner and have a championship opportunity waiting for me in Las Vegas, Nevada. He mentions that Seth Rollins has a matchup against Finn Balor to qualify for the final 2 spots in the chamber. Of course, we have Damian Priest as well in a triple threat match on Friday night that will involve Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu. That's going to be quite the matchup with a lot of meat in one matchup. But of course, the next match that would be the qualifier, Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio. And we got a fun little interaction between Logan Paul and CM Punk. Of course, Paul is the one that eliminated the Second City Saint from the Royal Rumble matchup, something I wasn't really too happy about because I was pulling for Punk. But the social media megastar took it upon himself to take away a lot of people's favorite for the Royal Rumble match. And Punk talks about how, hey, I was talking about everybody else. I was talking about everybody else that was in the matchup, and to be honest, I forgot that you even were in a match tonight. And he tells Logan, you're so preoccupied with me, maybe you ought to think about the guy you're facing, Rey Mysterio. And then Rey comes out, has this little fun interaction between he and CM Punk. And for those of us who are old enough to remember the feud between Rey and Punk that was in 2010, they had a match at WrestleMania 26 that I was very fortunate enough to attend. Shout out to the parents. Then they had a matchup at Extreme Rules where if Rey Mysterio were to win and beat Punk, he'd have to shave his head. Punk wins. And then at Over the Limit, the rubber match, it was winner take all. If Rey wins, Punk has to shave his head. But if Punk wins, Rey has to join the Straight Edge Society. Rey wins, Punk has to shave his head. To think that that was 15 years ago is ridiculous. To know the history between the two and seeing them together once again after so long really takes you back. I can remember watching that on TV live 15 years ago as a kid. To think where I was 15 years ago, I was 12? And to see Rey Mysterio and CM Punk in the middle of the ring where Punk was antagonizing the Mysterio family with a little baby Dominic, and of course Rey's daughter Aaliyah, who CM Punk sang happy birthday to in the most sadistic and evil manner that you can sing happy birthday to a child. And it's still something that resonates with us to this day. I know I'm talking to San Fran 5. He probably remembers seeing CM Punk sing to Aaliyah happy birthday. But we see Rey Mysterio against Logan Paul in a good match, like Sylvia talked about. It was a fun matchup here. Obviously, we don't like the outcome. I think it'd be very difficult to find a true diehard fan of Mr. Logan Paul. But you have to give the man his credit. He knows how to work the crowd. He knows how to work in the ring. And if anything is a testament of that, look at how he works with Rey Mysterio. Their matchup at Crown Jewel a couple years ago where he helped save a little spot there that could have resulted in a major injury for Rey Mysterio, but nonetheless, he's not that bad in the ring. Now, him defeating Rey, yeah, it does kind of hurt because we all love Rey Mysterio. San Fran 5 in the chat here says, yeah, I do remember one of my favorite feuds for young Punk. It was a great Punk feud. And a little fact there, It wasn't the first time they had a match in the ring, because back in 2002, in the independent scene, there was a very famous triple threat match that took place in mid 2002. CM Punk, a young CM Punk, would take on Rey Mysterio. This was without the mask, and Eddie Guerrero in a triple threat match. That level of respect and admiration that Punk has for Rey Mysterio goes way back. Goes way back. But that love and admiration is not shared by Logan Paul, because he would flat out deliver a devastating right hook to Rey Mysterio before unveiling a new maneuver. On Rey Mysterio. What a maneuver, as Vince McMahon would once say in the early 90s. The pulverizer. It was something different. It almost resonated like a suplex that kind of landed into some kind of cutter. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just so sudden and so different, so unique. So I have to give him credit for that. Logan Paul gets the win on Rey Mysterio. Again, earns an opportunity in the chamber. And he's going to join the likes of Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and John Cena. What a field to be a part of. Truly impressive. Something he should be proud of, quite frankly. Colin in the chat. Colin, what's going on, my friend? Glad you can join us here on a Monday. I'm doing well. I'm doing real well. Just finished watching Monday Night Raw. We're recapping Raw here for a second. Hopefully you're having an awesome night as well. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend. Glad to see you back here on the live stream. We're talking about Monday Night Raw, and what are people's thoughts here on the field of the Elimination Chamber? Because right now we have CM Punk, Hall of Famer. John Cena, Hall of Famer. Drew McIntyre, on his way. And then Logan Paul. No disrespect, but I mean in comparison to the other guys, he only has a U.S. title to his name. Aside from that, we're looking at Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor in a qualifying matchup next Monday. And then on SmackDown, we're going to see a triple threat match between Braun Strowman, the monster of all monsters, Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf, and Damian Priest, the former El Campeon. I'm thinking it's going to be Damian and Seth. I think those are the two that are going to round out this Elimination Chamber matchup. Colin says, doing decent, just taking a small break from watching anime. I'm excited for the Chamber, likewise. If the tickets weren't expensive, I bet I'd go, since I'm one of Toronto's. Yeah, no, and that's the thing too, the WWE shows are getting expensive. I mean, look at the WrestleMania tickets. I saw somewhere that one of the cheapest tickets for WrestleMania is like $7,000. Shout out to Sean in the chat. What's going on, Sean? $7,000 is ridiculous, dude. And that's just the tickets to the show. Imagine like the hotel. Imagine travel. Imagine the food. You got to eat throughout the week. Maybe you want to buy some souvenirs. Hell, maybe you got to buy parking. But it's like, that's an egregious amount of money. That's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I would love to go to another WrestleMania. I was fortunate enough to go to one. Again, shout out to the parents. I hooked it up back in 2010. But with prices like that, it's like, dude, I'd rather just sit back, order a pizza, and then watch it at home. Because at least I get more of an experience from like the packages, the commentary. It'd be cool to be in person. But I'm more than content. Again, just open up a box of pizza and watching pro wrestling in the house. Because $7,000 for a cheap seat is crazy. And I can only imagine what the front row tickets would be like, man. Sean asks, do you think Rey Fenix, he joins WWE? I think he will. It's just a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. And it's a perfect segue here because Sean brings up a great point with All Elite Wrestling. Rey Fenix will come to WWE. It just makes perfect sense. If I'm Rey Fenix, I want to join up with my brother Penta in the biggest promotion in the world. It makes so much sense. And then I look at it and how AEW right now has finally, again, reportedly, Malachi Black, formerly known as Aleister Black, Miro, formerly known as Rusev, and then as well as Ricky Starks, apparently are all now free agents. They have been, freed from their contract, freed from their obligations and All Elite Wrestling. It's only a matter of time before some of these guys Either go to WWE or go elsewhere. I think of the three, Ricky Starks and Malachi are the two that are WWE bound. Malachi, very confident, goes straight to the main roster, and I would hope on SmackDown. I would love to see him on SmackDown, just because I'm biased. I've always been a SmackDown guy. Ricky Starks, though, no disrespect to Ricky, it's not a detriment on his talent and his presentation, but I think he should go to NXT. Build him some equity with the crowd, and because that division needs male talent. The NXT division is very thin. Obafemi's the top guy. Trick Williams is the top guy. Ethan Page. But aside from them, it's like it takes a dip after that. So I really think that Ricky Starks is going to be great, regardless where he goes. But if he goes to the E, might have to start NXT. Colin says, even AEW tickets are a price gouge. I looked at the cost for one of their Canadian shows near me a while ago and was like, yeah, man. Man, and it's crazy with AEW. I don't like shaming them. I don't, because I am always pro wrestling. I'm always going to support pro wrestling. I want them to succeed. But if they're going to be charging that much money and still struggling to fill up an arena, it's not a good look. It's really not a good look. And I want them to succeed. But keep in mind too, like, dude, we're paying customers. We want to enjoy this show. We want to support. But how is the average fan going to attend these shows with some of these pricings? D Vegas says the real MVPs are Jose's parents. For sure. For sure. I will never get tired of singing their praises. I would not be here, quite literally, without them. The work, the sacrifices, the love, the patience that they had to raise the kids that they had, the sacrifices they've made. Everything I do is because of them. Every great thing that I can aspire to accomplish, every single compliment that I am fortunate enough to receive, I deflect that to them. And you guys, I would think by now, very familiar with the way I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm going to tell you the way it is. I will never be shy about how proud I am of them. And how I will always deflect to their work that they put in. So absolutely, they're the real MVPs. Without question. Without question. Colin says, I'm looking forward to when Rey Fenix joins, but I hope Penta will remain primarily a solo guy because I think he can do so much better as a solo star. I agree. I want to see these guys succeed both individually. I think we've seen enough of their work in AEW. Obviously, we've seen them in Impact as well as the Lucha Brothers. Maybe, hear me out, you keep Penta on Raw and you move Phoenix to SmackDown. Keep them separate. Acknowledge that they're brothers. Acknowledge that there's history. Build them up as single stars. Let's get some equity. I see the hearts in the chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Build them some equity. And then have them join up later. So it feels like a big deal. Like, whoa, we're finally going to get to see these guys go. And it's like you see what Penta's able to do. You see what Phoenix is able to do. And so when we finally bring them together, it feels like a big deal. It feels monumental because you've never seen it on a WWE stage. Eventually they will be tag team champions. No doubt in my mind. But maybe do the unconventional thing. Rather than bring them together early on and have them be a tag team, maybe keep them separate. Build them up. And then have a little run as a tag team, and then eventually they break up again. But don't turn on each other. I don't like when they overdo the whole tag team partners turn on each other and they feud. It doesn't have to be like that. Why can't people just peacefully break up and say, hey, I'm going to do my own thing. I want you to do your own thing. If you need me, call me. I don't want to see the Lucha Brothers fight. Colin says, also, I would probably use Rey Fenix on NXT at first. That is, hey, you could. You could, because NXT needs the talent. We just talked about that. But I don't know if they would do that. I think Rey Fenix is so great, they'll just pop him up on the SmackDown probably. But that is a possibility. And I want AEW to succeed as well, as I do enjoy the product. Yeah, for the most part, I'm right with Colin there. There's a lot of things I like about AEW. Granted, there's some things I don't like. But that's life, right? You're not going to like 100% of the things you watch. I want them to succeed. There's so much talent there. People like Will Ospreay, people like Trick, like Swerve Strickland, Darby. Those are guys I'm really invested in. Those are the three guys that are some of my favorites. Danny Garcia is another one that I'm a fan of. The Hurt Syndicate. There's so much. Tony Storm. There's so much talent there. I want them to succeed. Kevin says, I miss Edge on WWE. Oh, man. I get why he left. He accomplished everything. There's really nothing else for him to accomplish. So for Edge, it's like, tackle the next challenge. And that would be going over to AEW. Working with other talent that he's never worked with. But I do miss seeing Edge too on WWE. Colin says the cheapest ticket for AEW in my area was $150 for the worst seats in the house, partially obstructed view. That's wild. That's actually wild for like an obstructed view. And again, I don't even know if that's considering fees. But then on top of that, food, merchandise, like, dude. Sanford Five says, did you hear about Miro leaving AEW? And his name is nowhere to be seen on AEW shop. Yeah. Yeah, so Miro, Malachi Black, and Ricky Starks gone from All Elite Wrestling. We haven't seen Miro since like World's End, I believe, when he faced off against Andrade. And that was like a year and a half ago. Something like that. That was a long time ago. D Vega says they can keep Jericho. Dude, I like Jericho, but this latest run, I don't know, man. You guys know my feeling on Jericho. Colin says, I would start him on NXT because I'd pitch it like this to him. We believe you can be a top star in this company for decades to come. Right now, if we have you on NXT, we can have you in a starring role while you shake off the ring rust. That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Because let's be real, it has been a little bit of time since we've seen Phoenix in the ring. We know he can go. I know they have all the confidence in the world in him to perform on the main roster, and I still think that's going to be the move. I still think that's going to be the call. But the logic behind, hey, we want to have you as a starring role in NXT, shake off the ring rust, maybe adapt to the style of the WWE, it's not a bad idea. It's not. I think it could work. He could be the face of the division for quite some time there. But I look at it from a business standpoint. Phoenix, one of the top stars, one of the top luchadors in all the world. They're going to sell masks. They're going to sell merchandise. If they do as good of a job as they do with Phoenix, as they did with Penta, and they move into NXT, you can argue they're leaving some money on the table. You can argue that. I'm not a businessman. I'm not pretending to be one. But I'm going to think with their logic. I like the idea of starting out on NXT. Again, opening him up to a new style, getting him ready for the limelight, putting him in a starring role. That's all good. But I don't know if they're going to start like that. But it's not a bad idea, Colin. Kevin says, we all know MJF will come to the WWE one day. WWE is the big leagues. I mean, dude, he got a tattoo of AEW. Can you believe that? That tattoo he got, but he did get it on like his leg. So where it's like covered with a boot. But eventually he has to, right? I feel like don't get it twisted. Every pro wrestler, I think, eventually wants to go to the WWE. It's the big leagues. It's the big promotion. It's WrestleMania. Everyone wants to go there. And if someone says, no, I'm good, they're lying. Come on. I think the day he does go, it's going to be interesting. Because I would like to see him against Cody in an updated version of their feud from AEW. But that MJF, I don't know if it's going to be the same MJF. I think he's going to be a little bit more tamed. He's not going to be able to curse as much. Maybe not get away with a lot of those shoot-style promos, those work shoots. Because I think the WWE is very selective on how they want to present those stories. If every promo is a worked shoot promo, then are they even special anymore? And MJF can speak on the microphone. That's well documented. But I think he's going to have to rework his style to accommodate what the WWE is used to presenting. But I would love to see it. Colin says that $150 was all in for ticket fees and taxes, but still pretty high for an arena house show. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. I think putting him on SmackDown is a good idea too. I think so. I like the idea of SmackDown. I like the NXT idea. I just don't know if they do it, knowing their track record. Muhammad, what's going on? Thanks for joining the chat on a Monday night. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully the weekend treated you right. Great to see you, my friend. Colin, for NXT, my favorite guy is Lexis King. Hey, you don't really hear that a lot. Shout out to Lexis King. You don't hear a lot of Lexis King praise because his promo style reminded me of a young Edge. I even told my buddy who got me into wrestling, he felt like a budget version of Edge on the mic right now. I suppose I can see that. So when they first introduced Lexis King and they strayed away from the Pillman name, I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, we know him as Brian Pillman Jr., but they don't shy away from it. His first appearance, they talk about Brian Pillman and how he wants to make his own name. So they go with Lexis King. I thought that was an interesting choice, and I'm not against it. Build up his own name. There were times we saw him in the t-shirt that was like his father's that he wore back in the 90s. Obviously, he has a similar style to Flying Brian Pillman. But I like the presentation. The throne entrance is super cool. I think that's super cool. The way he slides into the entranceway, that's awesome. And an underrated aspect of NXT. Doesn't get enough praise, but I think the ceiling is high for Alexis King. I hope for the best for him, but it's very tough to follow in his father's footsteps. But that's interesting. But shout out to Colin for that as well, because we don't get a lot of praise for Alexis King, and we don't get a lot of talk about NXT on these live streams. So I'm glad we're able to talk about NXT. Muhammad, I hope you're doing well, man, as well as everything else in your weekend, and same with everybody. Likewise, my friend, likewise. We hope everyone's doing well on a Monday night or Tuesday morning, of course, depending where you are in the world. We have members of the J area all across the globe. On YouTube, I'm able to see the analytics and see where people are watching. So we have a lot of members that are following, of course, across North America. I see some from Europe. I've even seen some in India. So shout out to all our friends across the globe. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us here talking pro wrestling. Colin says, for wrestlers I've noticed, I tend to prefer the high flyers. Right on, I agree. Very athletic guys and technical wrestlers over the brawlers. I'm inclined to agree with you. There are some brawlers that I'm fans of, but I've always liked the super athletic guys, especially the technical guys. So I've always said guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk. That type of a wrestler, that's my jam, right? That's my bread and butter. If I see a match that has any combination of those type of wrestlers, I'm locked in. Count me in. Now, I am a fan of some brawlers. You have your Sheamuses. Fit Finlay. I like the brawlers. But I'm more inclined with those guys. Even some of the big guys. Like a Brock Lesnar back in his heyday. But he's like a freak. Brock Lesnar was an uber athletic individual who was huge, but could go athletically as well. Hopefully you're doing better, Muhammad. I see you're still under the weather. Hopefully you're able to kick off of that. It sucks. It sucks being under the weather. I know. But hopefully you're able to pull through and get that over with. Get it over with. What I always say is if I'm going to get sick, hit me hard, and then let's just move on with it. Because when I get sick hard. And I'm like, just get it over with. Do what you got to do. Colin says, if I'd been a wrestler, I probably would have been an athletic high flyer, as I'm a smaller guy at 5'5" and 100 pounds. Giving out his attributes. 5'5", 100 pounds, coming out of Canada. But a lot of guys too from Canada. There's a great amount of wrestlers from there. I mean, you just look at the Hart Dynasty, Jericho, Edge, Benoit, Christian, Lance Storm. There's so many other guys that I'm not even thinking of right now, but those were the first ones. Canada is just a machine when it comes to producing wrestlers. Some of the greatest wrestlers of all time have either came out of Canada or have been trained by someone that was from Canada. It's ridiculous, the amount of talent that comes out of there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Kenny Omega is also from Canada. Like Winnipeg, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's from Winnipeg or something like that. I don't know what they put in the food there, dude. Like a bunch of athletes come out of there. Colin says, I was talking to my buddy about that. We came to the conclusion we produce a lot of wrestlers, hockey players, yes, and media personalities because there's little to do during the winter. Yep, Kenny is from Winnipeg. I thought so. But it's true. I mean, like, we just listed off an amount of talent there that came out of Canada. And hey, I'm a little biased, being that I have Mexican in me. You know, my family's from Mexico. I don't think there's any doubt that there's a lot of great wrestlers that came from Mexico, that came out of Lucha Libre as well. I mean, you look at a lot of the cruiserweights. I'm a big fan of the cruiserweights, guys like Rey Mysterio, Psychosis. I mean, you look at even guys now, Penta, Phoenix. Colin says, and for media personalities, we've got Chris Van Vliet, who's from my area. Now you're just bragging. I'm a big CVV guy. I listen to every podcast of his, every episode, every interview. I just love the way he approaches his work. It seems so natural to him. It doesn't even seem like an interview. It's a conversation, and it feels like he even knows them. And obviously, you know, we all kind of know them with the sense of that we've seen them on TV. We know a little bit of backstory, but it comes off so casual. I know he's a professional at what he does, but it doesn't feel like a professional setting. It just seems like two people talking. CVV is a very big inspiration for what I would love to aspire for. When it comes to the channel, when it comes to approaching pro wrestling content creation, Chris Van Vliet's awesome. Big fan of his work. If you guys aren't familiar with Chris Van Vliet, he has a podcast called Insight with Chris Van Vliet. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, probably wherever you get your podcasts. He's really good. I'm a big fan. It'd be awesome to meet him. And he seems like such a positive guy, which also helps. You know, I'm surprised that things like New Japan is so big that there isn't more wrestling anime. You would think, right? That's another thing. Japan produces a lot of great wrestlers as well. But yeah, you would think there's some crossover there between anime. I'm going to confess, I'm not a big anime guy. But it's not one of those things where it's like, I watch an anime and I'm like, I don't see it. No, I see it. I get it. I understand why people are fans. I totally get it. It's just for me, it doesn't click. But again, with the appeal, you would think there would be some crossover between the two of pro wrestling and anime. It would just make sense, I think. But what do I know, right? Muhammad says, gratitude is the most important thing in my life. Yeah, that's a direct quote from CVV. He ends that with every episode, every interview. He talks up to his guests, and he says, gratitude is an important part of my life. And he asks every guest, what are 3 things you're grateful for? Sanfran 5 says, not gonna lie, I want to go to Japan for video games, food, anime, but especially wrestling. Japan is just like another world. It seems like, at least in the movies and in other forms of media. It just seems like it's different, right? The culture, the tech, the lifestyle, again, the food. It'd be nice. It'd be cool to go over. Colin says, hey, if you ever want to try it again, I can suggest some that might appeal to you. Anime is a bit like wrestling. And that's why I get it. You know, that's why I can kind of see it. Like, okay, like I get it. Something's for everybody. You just have to sample it and see what sticks. That's like the perfect example. Because you said it's like wrestling, so there's something for everyone. So I get it. That's awesome. Maybe. But I will confess, I'm not the best when it comes to TV shows. That's why I've always been a movie guy, because you can sit down in one sitting and just watch an entire film, and you get the story. But with shows, it's difficult for me to dedicate enough time to watching a season of something. So like there have been shows where I have not finished. For example, I started The Walking Dead and I made it 7 seasons in and I stopped. And it wasn't because like, oh, I wasn't interested. It's just other things came up, whether it was a movie, shows, sports. It's difficult to dedicate that time. I can try, but it's difficult for me to invest in a show, especially when I'm trying to keep up with pro wrestling. I'm an avid fan of the NBA and NFL. Obviously, I have work. I have, my family life, my friends. So it's like being able to balance that time is definitely a challenge. So recently, and I've spoken to my family about this, I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm listening to podcasts, all on like double speed, because it just helps with the time. I can't listen to things on normal speed anymore. I listen to everything double time. So if I'm listening to a 1 hour podcast, I listen to it in 30 minutes because I'm putting 2 point speed on it. Just because there's so much stuff out there that I personally would like to consume. I would like to watch it. I would like to listen to it. But because of that time, I have to listen to it on double the speed. Colin says, oh, I enjoy the NBA too. My team just acquired Brandon Ingram. I did see that big trade for Toronto, acquiring the services of Brandon Ingram. I have a little bit of a beef with the Raptors, though. I'm a fan of the Warriors. People who are familiar with the channel, they know I'm a Bay Area fan. The Niners, San Francisco 49ers, the Golden State Warriors, the San Francisco Giants. Those are the big three in this household. And the Golden State Warriors, we had obviously had an NBA Finals matchup in 2019. Toronto beat us. I got no bad blood against them. It's not like, oh, I hate Toronto. No, it's just they beat us. So I'm like, Colin says, I like the Warriors as well because I enjoy their play style, and Jimmy Butler is my favorite player because of his play style. Oh, wow. I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of skeptical of getting Jimmy Butler in that trade. I like Jimmy Butler. I like his hustle. I like his dedication to the game and his competitive nature. But it's like, I look at every time he's finishing up with the team, whether it's Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Miami recently, it seems like it always ends up in bad blood. No pun intended. But it's like, he's a great player. And we signed him to a 2-year extension, to cover his contract right now. So partnering him up with Steph Curry and Buddy Hield and Draymond, it's interesting. Got a couple wins with them. Had a great comeback victory against Chicago the other night. So we'll see. Hopefully it's able to propel us out of the 11th seed and get us out of the play-in. I would like to be in the 6th seed in the playoffs and not worry about the play-in. But we'll see how that goes. Sanford 5 says, bro, I forgot about the 2019 Raptors. I never did. I didn't. Because that's what prevented a three-peat. Oh, I love that. I wanted that three-peat. But hey, congrats to them. Jimmy Butler is very much how I live life, minus the bridge burnings where possible. Yeah, I agree. Very tenacious. Jimmy Butler he's a go-getter. Like I said, a competitor. In one word, he is a competitor. It's just that the bridge burning. I'm with you. Sanford 5 says, looking back, everyone will always talk about the Warriors versus Cavs feud. Yeah, man, those 5 years. I say 5 years because, 2019, they had a shot, But you saw how it was 2015 through 2018, those 4 years. The 5-year Warrior run, but the 4-year rivalry. It really felt like a modern day Lakers versus Celtics. Now, I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not. That's like the biggest sports rivalry in the NBA. But seeing the consistency of LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant, The star power, Clay. Obviously, Kyrie and Kevin Love were there early on. What a time. The Warriors could have walked away with like 4 championships, but 2016 they didn't win. In 2019 they didn't win either. But they would get that 4th championship in 2022, which I thought was one of the best runs that we had as a team because no one expected it. We kind of went under the radar for a second there, so that was cool. Colin says, when the Raps aren't in contention for the playoffs, the Warriors are my team. I never got that. Because I totally get when people are like, oh, if this team isn't doing good, it's this team. I can never do that. If I have one team, I got one team. If the Warriors are not doing that good, then it's not a good season. If the Niners aren't doing that good, then it's not a good season. For me, it's never been like, oh, so if this team's not doing good, I'm going for this team. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll always stick with the one team. Colin says, I'm so tenacious and gritty that I tend to surprise people because I have a very laid-back demeanor. That's how you get them. It's always the quiet ones. It's always the chill ones. Through my drive and ambition, can at times rub people the wrong way. Hey, it happens. Sometimes you're not everybody's cup of tea. But at the end of the day, as long as you know who you are, your values, and what you bring to the table, At one point, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from my mom, saying, hey, there comes a time in your life when you're going to have to start realizing you can't care what other people think about you. And when she said that, it like the light turned on. And it was like a level of pressure came off my shoulders because I was like, wow, like you say it like it's easy, but it's like, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't care. So, Colin says, I have family that work for the Sharks. Oh, cool. And Warriors, hence why I somewhat cheer for them. Okay, so then then that's different. Because I've always looked at it like, and this is a different comparison, but I know people who are like, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I like the Yankees. And I like the Lakers in basketball. And I'm like, where is the correlation? But being that you're from Canada and Toronto, the area, you're a fan of the Raptors, and you have a connection to the Warriors, then that makes sense. That's valid. I did try watching the Sharks. I remember watching the San Jose Sharks as they made that run into the Stanley Cup against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And hockey's another thing where it's like, I tried it, and I couldn't get into it. Again, I get why people are a fan. I totally get it. This is not me, trashing hockey. Not at all. It's just for me, I'll probably only watch for the Stanley Cup or the playoffs. Like soccer. The stereotype is that like, oh, he's Mexican, he must like soccer. I really don't, to tell you the truth. I only watch it when it's like the World Cup and the Gold Cup, when it's the tourneys. But other than that, I don't really keep up. I'm a casual when it comes to that. Muhammad says, hi to Sanford 5. What do you guys think of Super Bowl from last night? The Super Bowl, man. So I didn't get to see the first half. I walked into the house right at the beginning of the third quarter because I had to work, Super Bowl Sunday. I wasn't happy about it, but hey, do what you got to do, right? So and apparently I didn't miss much. The Super Bowl is supposed to be the best game of the year with two of the best teams in the NFL, and it just wasn't that. One of the teams showed up, got the memo, the other one didn't. I don't like either team. It's been well documented on this stream. I do not like either team. But at the end of the day, I just wanted a good game. And it wasn't. Congrats to Philadelphia winning their second ever Super Bowl. Their first obviously was Super Bowl 52. So congrats to them. Happy for Saquon. Happy for Jalen. So shout out to the boys in Philly. Sanford 5 says, hi, Muhammad. Last night's Super Bowl to me was like Brock Lesnar versus Cena at SummerSlam Suplex City. It really was. It was a squash. Don't let the score fool you. It was like 40-22, but that's because Kansas City started scoring very late. There was no question who was winning that game. Colin says, I have never been able to get into football, so I didn't watch it last night. Yeah, and it's like very much like how I really don't get into hockey. It's like it's not for everybody, But there are different sports that you can get into. The ones that I watch the most, Obviously, pro wrestling. Don't know if you know this, but I have a whole channel dedicated to it. If you're not subscribed, I would hope you would consider to subscribe. That, the NFL, the NBA, some of baseball, and then I'm also a fan of boxing. Boxing hasn't been the same in the quite last few years, but if there's a good boxing matchup, you better believe I'll try to check it out. Colin says, I watch the EPL and the Scottish Premier League a little bit because, again, I have family who work for some teams, so I enjoy it from that standpoint. Right on. Right on. Muhammad agrees. Colin says, one thing that is pretty funny, though, is one side of my mom's family works for Glasgow Celtic FC, and the other half for Glasgow Rangers. And those two fan bases basically have blood feuds. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. It must be interesting though, to have both sides having, like, again, like you said, a blood feud. It's interesting too because, okay, you said you're not really you never really been able to get into football. So for us, I'm a San Francisco 49er fan, but there is like a segment of our family who are Dallas Cowboy fans and another segment that are Arizona Cardinal fans. And there's like a beef, a rivalry between all three teams. So it's like whenever the teams are facing off against each other, it's a whole ordeal. And I kind of liken it to that. In terms of a blood feud, Cowboys versus Niners is more serious, but it makes it more fun, I think. When everybody is on the same page with teams, yeah, everyone's on the same page, we're all fighting for the same thing, but it makes it more interesting when it's like, oh, okay, it's a rivalry game. Muhammad says, what do you think of Jalen Hurts and the halftime? So the halftime show, I enjoyed. It's another thing where it's been divisive. There's some people saying it's one of the worst halftime shows of all time. Some people saying it was a great halftime show. Me personally, for Kendrick Lamar, I thought it was good. I enjoyed the track listings. I enjoyed the performance. For the Super Bowl, it was okay. There have been a lot better Super Bowl performances. By no means was it bad. I enjoyed it. If you're asking for my personal opinion and not like an analytic look at it, I enjoyed the halftime show. I was surprised that they had entered the Super Bowl thinking that he wasn't going to perform Not Like Us. It's the biggest song of the year. He had to perform it. So, but I enjoyed it. As for Jalen Hurts, I got no beef with Jalen Hurts. I think he's fine. He's cool. I'm not a fan of the Eagles, but I don't have any hate towards Hurts. I thought he played a smart game. 2 touchdowns through the air, had a touchdown on the ground with a tush push. And people, were critical that, like, oh, he kept running and scrambling and they didn't really have a run game with Saquon. But it's like at the end of the day, you're trying to win the Super Bowl. Do what works. Why am I going to change my game plan for the opposition? Do what works. So, once again, congrats to them. Colin says, for MLB, I cheer for the Jays and the Giants. Family connection to the Giants. Hey, you like the Giants and you got a connection with the Sharks? I knew we had a reason we were getting together here. I'm a fan of the Giants. I was fortunate enough to see them win 3 World Series. Was fortunate enough to see the Warriors win their 4 championships with Steph. So we're just waiting for the San Francisco 49ers. That's the only team I have not had the fortunate pleasure of seeing win a championship, but it's coming. I can feel it. I can feel it in the pit of my stomach, or maybe that's just the Chinese I had earlier. But I feel it. It's going to come. Colin says the reason for the blood feud is because Celtic is the Catholic team, and Irish immigrants helped found the team. Rangers is Protestant. So the blood feud is often religious based, and it has led to full-on violence as a result. Wow. Here's something interesting. Green Day played the CFL halftime show in 2023. I would not have even known that. I didn't even know that. Shout out to Green Day. Lola Ruiz, have you seen the Warriors play live? Not live. I would like to, but we haven't had that chance. That's definitely on the list. Before Steph calls it a career, we have to go, though. I have to see Steph play live once. But we're just so much... It's tough. I've always said it this way. It's like having kids. No one should say they have a favorite child. It's different loves. I love the Giants. But I've seen them win championships. I love the Warriors. I've seen them win championships. I love the Niners. Haven't seen them win the championship. But I love the Niners. It's a different type of love because that was the team that my dad introduced us to. Regardless of what team he would have supported, we would have fell in line with that. So it's that bond between the Niners, my dad, and us as a family. So whenever the Niners come, that's priority. We're going to see the Niners play. But I would eventually, yes, love to see the Warriors play live, especially because of Steph, man. I mean, the greatest shooter of all time. Hopefully soon. Shout out to Lola with the great question there. Thank you so much for that. Colin says the Green Day halftime show was great, especially when you consider Tim Hortons Field is known for having awful acoustics. The fact that they're able to overcome that is a testament to Green Day. They also played quite a few big hits, which was really cool, as you would hope. I mean, for any halftime show, you're going to want them to perform their greatest hits. I mean, you want to have a little bit of a mixture, kind of keep the crowd interested, and you don't want to play too much of the old stuff. But of course, you want to have some of the big hits. Hopefully that's available online. I want to check that out, actually. I don't even keep up with the CFL. That's a great point. Funny enough, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was about to go into the CFL. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock. I don't know why I say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock. I'm thinking of seeing the Raps play live soon because tickets are reasonable. Nosebleeds are like $40. Take advantage of it. Colin says I watch the CFL sometimes. Take advantage of it. So I've only been to one NBA game. It was in 2005, January 13th. I remember it very well because I had a disposable camera that my parents gave me. They said, here's a camera, take pictures. And I felt like Peter Parker from Spider-Man with my little disposable camera taking pictures of the game. It was the Phoenix Suns facing off against the then New Jersey Nets, the Jason Kidd-led New Jersey Nets against the Steve Nash Phoenix Suns. It was cool. Suns won that game. So that's the only game I saw. That was, 20 years ago. Now thinking about it. We don't go to a lot of basketball games. We should probably go. Roman Reigns played in the CFL for a bit. There you go. Roman Reigns, straight out of Georgia Tech. Leaf tickets, on the other hand, it's so painful. $160 for the same nosebleeds as the Raptors as they share an arena. I didn't realize they shared an arena. But then again, I'm not as, knowledgeable when it comes to hockey. I also forgot to point out, Bleacher Report gave the main event a B. In case anybody was interested in the grading for the main event, it was a B. Colin says, yeah, they both play at Scotiabank Arena, formerly known as the Air Canada Centre. What are your thoughts on Vince Carter? Because whenever I think of the Air Canada Centre, I think about Vince Carter and obviously the huge performance at the All-Star Dunk Contest. I'm just surfing Bleacher Report at this point. Colin says, I was mad for the longest time at Vince for stabbing the team in the back, but myself and other Raps fans have forgiven him. Yeah. His best years, I do believe, were with Toronto. After he had left Toronto, going to New Jersey, it just wasn't the same after that. Once he left, because he had some other teams that he went to. He played with Dallas for quite some time. And then at the end of his career, he really just became a journeyman. He was with Atlanta for the longest. Oh, now Chris Bosh, on the other hand, yeah, we still are mad about the whole situation. I don't blame you. I don't blame you when it comes to the Chris Bosh situation, because that 2010 free agency, when they were reloading and having the Heat dynasty being forged between Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, that was a big selling point for a lot of people to be mad at the NBA to allow that happening. But Chris Bosh too, he was like the franchise at that point. I mean, he was drafted there and was proving to be a solid player, and then to become the third string essentially in Miami to win championships. But I mean, then again, you know, you're there to win championships, right? Money comes and goes, but rings are forever, as the saying goes. But I totally resonate with that. I get that. And then Chris Bosh had his whole health situation that really derailed the last few years of his career. Colin says the crazy thing, though, oh wow, the trade is still impacting the Raps roster. Isn't that crazy to think that a trade that occurred so long ago could have long-lasting ramifications on the status of a team? It's amazing to think that. I completely forgot about that. Bargani. What a time. What a time. Now that the NFL season's wrapping up, I can kind of clock back into the NBA. Year round, we talk about pro wrestling. There is no off season when it comes to the WWE. But with the NFL, I'm locked in. And once the NFL season's over, that's when I become more invested in the NBA. It's right around this time following the Super Bowl. We enter the All-Star weekend, get a little bit of a refresher, see where we're at, and then lead into the playoffs. So I'm really excited for the second half of the NBA. I've kept in touch with like the Warriors stuff, but in terms of like the grand scheme of the NBA, that's where I got to get going. Sanford 5 says, I miss the LeBron Miami days. That's crazy. What a team. Between the big three, when they had Ray Allen, Shea Battier, Mike Miller, Chris Anderson, to go to 4 championships, win 2 in the middle. It's an unofficial dynasty. For me, you need to win 3. 3 and you're a dynasty. They only got 2. One of the assets they got into the trade turned into OG Anunoby, who they parlayed into Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. Long-lasting ramifications that carry on in a franchise's history. Sanford 5 says 2000s basketball is better than 2020's basketball. I'm inclined to agree. We grew up in a very special time. I missed the 90s basketball by just a hair. But we grew up in a time where it was the 2000s. You had the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. You had, obviously, the Tim Duncan Spurs, Steve Nash and the Suns, Dirk and the Mavericks. Wow. Celtics, too, when they had Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and KG. 2000 basketball was a vibe. And that's not even mentioning guys like Allen Iverson, who was like an iconic figure. A young LeBron. Colin says, I was able to watch a good deal of 90s basketball as I was born in 1990. Got me by 8 years. You got me by 8 years. So you've got to see Jordan, essentially. At the tail end of his career. Nonetheless, here, if you're just joining us, it's a Monday night or a Tuesday morning, depending where you're at, of course. I always have to say that because all our friends across the globe may be on different time zones. But my name's Jose Ramos Jr. We're discussing, at the moment, NBA. But this is a pro wrestling channel where we like to discuss all things pro wrestling. Monday Night Raw just concluded as we head into the Elimination Chamber, the final stop before WrestleMania 41, which is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable events, at least in WrestleMania history. One matchup was made official. Gunther versus Jey Uso will be happening for the World Heavyweight Championship, a rematch of the last time we had a Saturday night's main event, where Jey Uso was unsuccessful in his quest in defeating the Ring General. Will Jey Uso finally be able to finish his story and win the World Championship at WrestleMania? We have to wait 68 days to see. But stick with us throughout these live streams on the J Area Wrestling Podcast, where we discuss pro wrestling on a daily basis, essentially, and as we recognize the major storylines heading into the show of shows. Colin says, I didn't get to see Jordan, which was kind of cool. Damn right, I bet it was kind of cool. Space Jam was a huge part of my childhood. Same. Just missed it by a hair. I hope Jay wins this time around because it's a great story. It really is. And it's going to be a great opportunity to really put a bow on the rise of Jey Uso. There was a time being there leading into the Bloodline story. Jey Uso was the first challenger for Roman Reigns. They had their matchup at Clash of Champions. They had their Hell in a Cell matchup. And people were thinking that Jey was going to be the guy to eventually dethrone Roman Reigns. There was Tribal Combat at SummerSlam 2023. Ultimately, we know it was Cody Rhodes that would emerge victorious and defeat Roman Reigns. But the rise of Jey Uso has been it's been fun to see. Because I always go back to the promo where he talks with Jimmy and Roman. Specifically Roman. Where he says there was a time where people would look at him and Jimmy and say, which one are you? And they couldn't distinguish one versus the other. And now they have two distinct personalities. They look different. You can argue they act different. They're unique. And I love that for them. I hope Jey wins the World Championship. I hope it's a great match, first and foremost. But to see him win a title would be astronomical. Jey wins the championship. That leaves one more guy, and that's Sammy. Sammy, I want to see him win a world title. He's earned that right, consistently putting on some of the best performances both in the ring and on the microphone. I've been invested in Sami Zayn's story since 2014, when I first saw him in NXT. I want to see him win the world championship badly. Colin says also, this tells me something. I was showing my German friend I told you about, yes, Jey Uso stuff, and he clicked for her. Yeah, I mean, see what I mean? Like, a large portion of the audience, or maybe not even a large, there's a segment of the audience that was anti-Jey Uso heading out of the Royal Rumble. But I just don't see it. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, like, aside from, like, people criticizing, like, oh, he overused the super kick, dude, everybody does. Everybody does. The super kick has become the next right hand. In terms of, like, oh, they're going to throw a right hand. They're going to hit you with a random punch. But that's not a detriment to Jey Uso and his character or his in-ring work. By the way, here's a video I'd love to see from you sometime. Wrestlers it took a while to click for you. Like me, for example. Gunther and Jay took a long time to click for me. Huh. I'm going to write that down. I didn't forget your ECW video either. We're going to have that out at some point this week. But the Gunther one and Jay is interesting. Jay, it didn't take me a long time to click because I was already invested in the Usos as a pairing. I like the Usos ever since they made their debut back in 2010. Also, their run in like 2013 with the face paint and their unique entrance. The Usos I've always been a fan of. Right on, I look forward to seeing both. Appreciate that. AJ, 21-1, Jay and Roman. So, I don't know where I was going with that. But I do like the idea of having a video where it's like some wrestlers that it took a while to click. Because it takes time. I mean, Roman's specifically won. It took Roman a minute there to click. People were so against him as the main guy. But it was because of the way they were pushing him, the way they were presenting it. It was so disingenuous. It was almost forced upon. Gunther took a bit to click for me because I was just hearing YouTube's talking him up. And when I saw clips, I was like, I don't get him. Fair. Because there are some times where it's like, there are certain wrestlers that are just so overhyped. And I'm not saying it's justified, like, oh, they're overhyped and they're trash. No. There are some guys where it's like, yeah, they're talked about in such a high regard for so long and so extensively it's kind of a turnoff. It's like, the way I look at it, again, if I can use an NFL analogy, I know some of us aren't as into the NFL as others, but like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, San Fran 5 can attest to this. The fact that everyone and their mother likes to say that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the next GOAT, that the Chiefs are the next dynasty, which I mean they are, technically. You hear it so often and so extensively and so consistently. It's like, I don't like them. I don't like what they stand for. It's like when you talk someone up so much, it's kind of a detractor. So I totally get that. The Gunther one I understand, but he is one of the best. AJ, I predict Super Bowl birds and Brock Lesnar. I predict the Elimination Chamber. Cody loses it. I don't even think Cody's going to... Well, no. I was going to say I don't think Cody wrestles at the Chamber, but he might face Solo. He might face Solo. Based off of that attack, Solo's not done with Cody. So the question is, do they fight at the Chamber? Is it an episode of SmackDown? You predicted the Eagles. I will give you that. I said the Chiefs would win, and I'm glad I was wrong. But you said you predict the Elimination Chamber, Cody loses it. You think he loses at the Chamber, AJ? And if so, who does he lose to? Because I would like to see your point of view. Who is Cody losing to? Or rather, who's he losing the championship? Because that's what it sounds like. For Jay, I didn't get him at first because I was seeing Bloodline. Again, Bloodline is very extensively shown. And the clips I was seeing of him were just bad highlights that didn't showcase Jay. I had to see Jay in the 2023 Royal Rumble for him to click for me. And it's true, though, because a lot of times in today's society, we are so used to like these clips, these edits, TikToks that are grabbing the highlights and they're showing you certain clips. So the best thing to do is, hey, make an assumption for yourself, watch a couple matches, listen to a couple promos, and if he doesn't click for you, okay, but give him a shot. You can't watch this other stuff. I look at it like in the sense of a movie. So there's trailers for a movie that kind of give you an idea. The reviews kind of give you an idea, but ultimately you might not agree with them. You have to make an assumption for yourself. So a lot of times, for example, I'll use movies. Morbius, Madam Web. I'm a big Marvel fan myself. I saw the negative feedback for Madam Web and Morbius. I heard a lot of bad things, but I'm the kind of person where I'm like, okay, that's what people are saying. I would like to see for myself. I'll take it into consideration, but I would like to make my own assumption. So I watch the movies and I think, oh yeah, no, they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong when they said those movies were bad. But at the end of the time, I want to see them for myself and make my own decision. Because maybe I'll like it. Who knows? I didn't. I didn't like him. Another example, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because I'm a big Marvel fan. A lot of people trash that movie. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it's not the best movie, but you're not going to hear me trash it. AJ says, can Money in the Bank use it to put another wrestler in? Well, at this moment, no one is the Money in the Bank holder. Money in the Bank doesn't take place until the summer. But no, it's never been done. The Money in the Bank briefcase is only used to cash in on a championship. So if the question is, can the Money in the Bank use it to put another wrestler in? If I'm the holder, no one's holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. I do want to preface that. But if someone was holding the briefcase, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to use it to put someone in a matchup. They would use it to just, win the championship. And plus, if I'm trying to cash in Money in the Bank, I don't want to be in the chamber. Let those guys fight it out, and I'll take the leftovers. Colin says, in the last month, I saw a few of Gunther's promos, and I realized that his promo style was dry and funny. It is. Then I saw some of his matches and was blown away. Yeah, no, he's good. He's an acquired taste. I will say that. Not for everybody, but when you notice those little nuances, like the promo style and his wrestling style, there's a sense of appreciation, I think, when it comes to Gunther. Sanford 5 says, it's Morbin time. Don't even start. I shouldn't have brought him up. Colin says, I love The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think it's a super underrated film. I'm not going to pretend like it's the best one. but I don't think it's as bad as what people say it is. So, yeah, San Fran 5 says people are actually praising Amazing Spider-Man 2 since No Way Home came out. Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like in retrospect. Hindsight is 2020. No Way Home really did a lot of good for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And people kind of missed him and loved him. And I love that for Andrew. He's an underrated Spider-Man. I don't think there's a bad Spider-Man. Andrew, Tom, and Toby are all solid in their own right. So you are 100%. I'm with you on that. AJ says Triple H won't let any WrestleMania go to waste. Yeah, I don't think he would. I don't think he would let any WrestleMania go to waste. That's the main show. You wouldn't want to let it go to waste. Like Gunther, I have a very dry sense of humor. I sometimes think it's the best kind of humor, because it's the one you kind of have to find. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, something about dry sense of humor. I think it's just on another level of funny. Like to give John Cena his last title shot, the Money in the Bank winner runs down and puts John Cena in the match. Wait, so are you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, like to give John Cena his last title shot, the Money in the Bank winner runs down and puts John Cena in the match? Are you saying, let's just throw an idea, Sami Zayn wins the Money in the Bank. Let's just say he wins Money in the Bank. And he gives it to Cena to get a championship opportunity. I just want to know if we're on the same page. To give Cena his last title shot, the Money in the Bank winner runs down and puts Cena in the match. Someone willingly sacrifices or gives up the contract to John Cena. I just want to make sure, is that what we're saying? Colin says, here's something interesting about both Amazing Spider-Man films. They're actually very well shot films, yes. And Mark Webb always does great stuff, especially his indie projects. They're always artsy. I'm gonna get back to the Spider-Man. I want to address AJ. AJ, I don't think that makes logical sense though. I don't think someone would give up that contract. If I win Money in the Bank, I want the championship opportunity. Now, if Cena wins Money in the Bank, then it's right there. I don't think someone's going to willingly give up the contract. That doesn't make sense to me. But I think there is an opportunity to have Cena win Money in the Bank. Because I think Cena wins the Chamber. I think he faces Cody. But I don't think he beats Cody. And that leaves room for for Cena to win Money in the Bank. If we're going to go the cash-in route, Cena has to win Money in the Bank himself. No one's going to give that to him. And I think Cena would want that. Seeing how Cena is presented as a character, he's not going to want someone to give him that opportunity. He's going to want to earn that. AJ says he's always got screwed by Money in the Bank. He's won it once. And it did end in a DQ. But aside from that, he has had history with people cashing in on him. But good thing he doesn't have to worry about being cashed in because he's not a champion. But I do think we have, in this regard, hold that in the past. Hold it in the past. Right now, Cena needs to win the Chamber so we can get that title opportunity at WrestleMania. I don't think we could talk about Money in the Bank yet. Money in the Bank is still a ways away. Is it a possibility? Yeah. But Cena has to win this Chamber first. If Cena doesn't win the Chamber, then we have to talk about the next plan. But that's down the road. We still got time. He's not done till December. He's still got time. It's only February. Colin says... Colin about the Amazing Spider-Man films. I agree with you. Mark Webb, I thought, did an exceptional job. He was able to distinguish his work from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which I love those Spider-Man films. He was able to distinguish them between the two. The casting was great as well. Big fan of what Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were able to do. The chemistry was legit. I mean, those two got together off screen. So, stylistically, it was unique. You talk about his indie projects. I believe there was like the 500 Days of Summer. Those type of works, you could definitely see the influence of Mark Webb. I'm a fan of it. Love the comment. Speaking of humor, George Carlin was a huge impact on mine. I only know George... So, again, I come from a certain age. I was born in 98, so I didn't catch a lot of his stuff. But George Carlin, I know because of his stuff in, oh my god, Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted. But I haven't seen a lot of his stand up for George Carlin. I know about his the 7 words he can't say. AJ says he's always had good luck in the chamber, but really bad luck seconds after the chamber. Yeah, 2006 got cashed in by Edge. 2010, Batista got a championship match and beat him too. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, AJ. So that's what I'm saying. He has a good track record in the chamber. I think he's going to win it. Colin says Mark Webb also directed the last of the American Girls music video for Green Day. Didn't know that he directed music videos. Didn't know that. Dude, I love Bill and Ted. I'm just a fan of Keanu. I'm a fan of Keanu Reeves. So we saw Bill and Ted. All three of them. All three of them. I enjoy the first one. I'm partial to the original. Yeah, I'm partial towards the original. But it's good. I'm a fan of Keanu. Love him in Speed. I think that's probably my favorite. I love John Wick. But I love Speed. Just that type of a genre is awesome. Colin says, yeah, Webb got his start in music videos, as did a lot of directors of his generation. That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of guys and girls, directors, who have gotten their starts in music videos. And that makes sense. You want to be able to start small scale and then build up. But specifically Mark, I didn't know that. But that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I tell you, you learn something new every day, especially on these live streams. My favorite Keanu Reeves film is, Dracula. Wow. That's a deep cut. Wow. I've never heard anyone say that was their favorite Keanu film. Who is your dream Elimination Chamber matchup? Okay. So I like that question. I'm going to go with like an all-star lineup when it comes to the Elimination Chamber. So first off, I'm going with 2025. Are we saying my dream Elimination Chamber of all time or just this year? Like with active stars? Because those are two different ones. So for this year or all time? I just want to make sure, AJ, before I start spewing off a bunch of names. All time. Or both. Okay, cool. I'll do both. So this year, I think for sure Punk, Cena, Drew, Seth. Those 4, locked in. Locked in. I would take out Logan. I would throw in Roman Reigns. And in the 6th spot, I put AJ Styles. But I think they have a good field already. When you have guys like Cena, Seth, Rollins, and McIntyre, that's already settled. Those are solid. I would then add Roman and AJ. That's for today, if I were to make one. Of all time, John Cena, I would put in Triple H. I'd have to put in Shawn because he was the first winner, and I'm biased. I'm a Shawn guy. So Shawn, Triple H, John Cena. I think you have to add someone that's going to be a level of excitement that's going to come out of the pod, guns a-blazing, suplexing everybody. And some people are going to think I'm talking Brock. I'm talking Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was only in one Elimination Chamber in 2006. I would love to see prime Kurt Angle in that Elimination Chamber. Again, with Cena, with Triple H, and with Shawn Michaels so far with the 4. The final 2, I want to get a little bit more modern. I don't want to use a lot of guys from the 2000s. Aside from them, I kind of want athleticism. I kind of want a guy that's going to jump off the top of the pod. A little excitement there. I think I'm going to put RVD. I loved RVD in the original, so I'm going to add RVD. I think his level of influence, the stories that could be told between him and Triple H, him and John Cena, never really had a proper feud. I would love to see that interaction between them. And the 6th and final guy. Oh, that's a good one. Because I'm also thinking matchup-wise. I want to think about someone that's going to mesh well with the other participants. I feel like I need to put a big guy. When it comes to the original, And again, I don't want to throw too many guys where it's like, okay, they all fought together in the same era. That sixth and final spot, just to cause mayhem, just because I would like to see him take on these goats: Shawn, Triple H, John Cena, RVD. I already forgot who the other guy I said was. Oh, Kurt Angle. I would throw on Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Tribal Chief Roman Reigns against guys like Triple H in his prime, Kurt Angle, John Cena in his prime, Shawn Michaels. I would love to see that. I would throw on Roman Reigns as the last one. Randy Orton did come up. I think about Randy Orton, but it's like I didn't want to throw too many guys in the same era. Colin says I also love the whole Ultimate Opportunist gimmick Edge had. Yeah, that run between 05 and 07, that Edge for me is top tier. That's my favorite Edge. 05 to 07, my favorite Edge. Ada says fire 10 out of 10. Appreciate that. Colin says, here's an all-time dream chamber match for me. Colin says, CM Punk, love it. Edge, love it. Drew, Shinsuke, Penta, and Seth. For a second, I thought that was 7 guys. That would be fun. That would be fun. To start it off, who would you start off in that match? I mean, I think... Ooh, I'm trying to think, who would you start? Maybe Seth. Seth is really good in those Iron Man positions. So maybe Seth at the 1. At number 2, maybe Shinsuke. Something fresh between Shinsuke and Seth. Something different. At the number 3 spot, let's put Penta. Interject a little bit of energy. At number 4, let's add Punk. 5 at Drew. Or Drew at 5. So we can take out Punk. Edge at 6 because he's the Ultimate Opportunist. AJ, okay, Jose, I see. Appreciate that. RVD's original. Love it. He should have been in the ECW one. Was he not? Maybe I'm wrong. I thought RVD was in the ECW chamber. Muhammad, Randy Orton. I did mention that. Elimination Chamber Wrestlers tier list. Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm going to bookmark that for another stream. A chamber tier list. But I like that idea, AJ. Right on. Muhammad mentions Batista. Again, the same reason why I didn't say Randy. I just didn't want too many guys that were all in the same era. AJ, Seth Pants. Penta, like Royal Rumble number 2. Shinsuke is one of my favorites on the roster. So, I love Shinsuke in NXT. You know, when he had debuted, he had that great matchup against Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver Dallas back in 2016. That debut was awesome. Since coming to the main roster, I don't feel like they've done a lot with Shinsuke. He's the current U.S. champion. I think I talked about this on a recent stream as well. He's the U.S. champion, but we haven't really done a lot with him. He's been in the scene in the back, you know, kind of lurking around, following guys, most recently Cody. I would like to see a little bit more consistency when it came to Shinsuke, having more matches, whether it's non-title or not. Having more guys want to face Shinsuke. Guys should want to be able to win that U.S. title and defeat Shinsuke, but I just don't see that sense of urgency. So I'm a fan of Shinsuke, but I think he could be booked a little bit better. Colin says, here's a tier list idea. Underrated main roster talent. Shinsuke OP and 2K24. Facts. Underrated main roster talent. That'd be cool. I recently did a tier ranking. Well, maybe not recently. Maybe a month or 2 ago. I did a tier ranking of every WWE wrestler. Like everyone on the roster. When it was, whether it's NXT, Raw, or SmackDown. I had tier ranked every single member of the roster. It's available in the archives of the live streams. You can find that in the live section of the channel or in the playlist of live streams that I have set up for the past. But in terms of like underrated main roster talent, that'd be cool. I'd have to see if that one's already made up because it's the website tier ranking. I'd have to see if that's set up. If not, I would have to get that ready. but I'm interested in it. But I do like the idea of the Elimination Chamber tier list. I definitely will look into that. I also will be doing the ECW video and the wrestlers it took you a while to get into. I like those ideas. Sanford 5 says you should do tier rankings of all superstars in specific eras or years. So like, oh wow, so like a ranking of like the golden era stars, a ranking of the new generation stars, attitude era, ruthless aggression, PG. That'd be a fun idea. Because I do enjoy doing the tier ranking videos. Because it allows me an opportunity to kind of show you guys my preferences while also hearing from you guys in terms of who do you guys enjoy? Who are you fans of? Do you like where I put this guy or do you not like where I put her? I like that kind of feedback. Colin says, I just like Shinsuke's style. It feels different to me. For whatever reason, his matches always catch my attention, no matter who's on the card that night. I agree with you. Shinsuke is a unique star, unique than anybody else on the roster. I just would like them to feature him more prominently. When was the last time Shinsuke had a match? Was it against Andrade, I believe? I would like to see people have that sense of urgency of like, I want a match against Shinsuke. I want a match for the U.S. title. Because he's one of the best. But it's like, I don't know. I would want a little bit more. And it's not his fault. I'm not saying it's Shinsuke. I want them to write better stories for Shinsuke. By the way, your top 5 songs you'd use for your entrance music. That's a great question. So, Edge's Metalingus for sure. I love Edge's theme song. It's one of the best ever. Triple H, the Game. That one's one of my favorites as well. CM Punk's Cult of Personality. Those are 3. And this is no particular order. For the 4th one, Stone Cold. Because the thing with Stone Cold, it may be simple, but between the glass shatter and just the beat of the music, the simplistic nature of that song is ridiculous because it sets the tone for who Stone Cold is. Black boots, black trunks, bald head, all business. I think it's one of the greatest theme songs of all time. That's 4 of them. The 5th one, so I said already, Punk, Edge, Triple H. And I've already said Stone Cold. The 5th one might not be a popular one. And I don't mean like it's controversial, but I don't think a lot of people talk about it. Sting. Sting from WCW specifically. The Crow Sting in the late 90s. I love that theme song. It is my favorite theme song that came out of WCW. I love that theme song. That for sure is one. And these are, again, like I said, these are all theme songs I would like to use. Because the question is, top 5 you use for your entrance music. If I had to rank them, at number 5, Triple H. At number 4, Triple H. At number 4, probably Sting. At number 3, Edge. At number 2, Austin. At number 1, CM Punk. In terms of my favorites on what I would use. And just from a sheer style POV, I'd love to see Penta versus Shinsuke. Take my money. Penta versus Shinsuke would be fire. I'm a fan of Vladimir Kozlov. We know AJ. AJ's the biggest Vladimir Kozlov stan. Muhammad says Jericho and Eddie. Solid. Colin says here are the top songs I'd use personally. Let's hear it. Oh, okay, Colin. So you're saying, I thought we were talking wrestling themes. We're saying in general. You're saying, okay, so The Unlikable Soldier by Sabaton, Desire by U2, Walk by Pantera, that's fire. Minority by Green Day, Wasteland Outlaw by Majest. Oh my god. That changes it then. Because I'm thinking it's like established stars. You're saying songs in general. Okay, that changes it. AJ says, does Jericho sing his own theme? Not the WWE one. Not the WWE one. But his stuff in AEW, Jericho does sing. Yes, he sings his own. Ooh, okay. Colin, that changes it then. So if we're going for five real songs, this is gonna show my preference in music. So in no particular order because that's just gonna be even tougher for me. California Love by Dr. Dre and Tupac. That one really sets the tone for me and the vibe that I bring. It's my favorite song of all time. So California Love by Dr. Dre and Tupac. For sure. The next one, I'm trying to think of one that would top this. This one in my head is like, I want you to try to think of one that says better. But I'm very partial to Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child O' Mine. Just because of the guitar riff. I love the guitar piece in that specific song. So that's two. Number three, Come As You Are by Nirvana. I like the tone of that song. There are other songs I really like Something in the Way, obviously Smells Like Teen Spirit. There's plenty of other songs that I think are great, but for a theme, I would go with Come As You Are by Nirvana. So that's three. For a fourth one, it's not. For a fourth one, I'd probably go with Metallica. One, because Enter the Sandman's already taken. But one. And the last one, again, in no particular order. Ooh. I don't know. I got the four pretty quick, I thought. But this fifth one's going to kill me to think about. The fifth one, Paranoid by Black Sabbath. That's the one I would go with. Paranoid by Black Sabbath. I'm very much into like the old rock, as you can kind of tell. Colin says, The Unkillable Soldier was one of my picks because just like Sir Adrian Carter, the one who the song's about. I always come back from instances where people would write me off. Come back for more. AJ says, that Lord forgive me, I swear that I'm sung. Everyone is using for, oh yeah. Yeah, I know which one. Desire, I went with that one because it was used in my favorite hockey player's retirement ceremony. And like Doug Gilmore, I was a small, hard-hitting guy who'd outwork everybody. Also, all fire choices. It's really cool though because when I misunderstood the question, I thought we were talking like wrestling songs that were already a thing. But it's interesting when you take into consideration. Oh, I'm changing it. Hold on, I'm changing it. So because I just thought of another one that I'm surprised I left out. So I said Sweet Child O' Mine, California Love, those are locked. Black Sabbath is a lock. I'm going to take out the Metallica song. And I'm going to put in Don't Fear the Reaper by Oyster. The Oyster Cult. Don't Fear the Reaper is a solid song. I'm putting in that one instead. And I thought about that because I remember one time I was talking to my sister about this very same conversation about what songs would be your theme song. And I remember I said, Don't Fear the Reaper is one of my favorite songs too. And I'm surprised I didn't say that. But I'm subbing Metallica out and I'm putting that one in. Again, for the guitar riff. It's a great guitar riff. Plus I love the fall season and they always play that during the fall, especially on TikTok. Walk I picked because it just feels like a song that should be used as a wrestler's theme. I feel like it would have fit Randy Orton really well. That would have been cool. But for RVD, I mean, it's a great choice for Rob Van Dam. Minority is one of my favorite Green Day songs, and it fits my CM Punk like mentality. Right on. AJ says fire. Wasteland Outlaw is a really cool metal song, and it fits the whole counterculture vibes. Like it. AJ says Don't Fear the Reaper S tier. Yeah, dude. Don't Fear the Reaper is a fire song. That's probably number one. If you ask me right now, hey, we want to play a song for you to walk out to, Don't Fear the Reaper might be one of the top. And then after that, California Love. Colin says, I love Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah. I'm not gonna, the last thing I'm gonna do is, put up a front and pretend like I'm a big Blue Oyster Cult fan. I like the one song. I'm not saying, you like Blue Oyster Cult? Name 5 songs. I won't be able to tell you. I like the one song. I would love to get more into it, and that's probably something I should do. Godzilla is a pretty cool tune by them. I'll check it out. Godzilla. I'm always willing to, hear more recommendations. 90% of Guitar Hero 3 songs. Honestly, yeah. My brother, Sanford5, recently got into the Guitar Hero series. And looking at the track listings that he was showing me, it's solid. Specifically Guitar Hero 3. Because I know we're talking about that one. But it is a solid choice. Given you like classic metal, you probably enjoy Majesty in general. I mean, hey, if they fall in line with that, probably. My taste in music it varies. I listen to just about anything. If I like the sound, I like the sound. So if that falls in line with it, you're probably right. I probably would be a fan. But my taste in music goes all around the world. Whether it's classic rock, whether it's like the oldies, like 50s and 60s, heavy metal or hair metal, rap, hip hop, pop, all over the place. AJ says, do you think John Cena boxing heel turn would have been good? It's difficult to see John as a heel. I know we had him as a heel for some time there. But in this, it's just difficult to see him as a heel. I would have loved it though. Another of their songs would be super cool for an entrance theme. It's called Burn the Bridges. Or Burn the Brides. Sorry, Burn the Brides. Burn the Brides. I gotta expand my music taste. I live by a saying. When it comes to music or movies, even pro wrestling, because it can be applicable. Oh, Bridges was right. Auto hit. Okay, that's crazy. So because I thought Burn the Bridges made more sense, but I saw Bride, so I wasn't sure if I was wrong there. But Burn the Bridges, okay. No matter what it is, movies, music, wrestling, a person of many tastes will never starve. And I love that saying so much because it's true. If you are a fan of multiple genres, styles, whatever the case may be, you will never starve because you already have a taste of all these other things. He said that he was going to turn heel in 2011 as a boxer, 100% opposed to the My Time Is Now era. I just don't know. Then Punk happened. Yeah. I know there's been rumblings that it's like he would have turned heel against The Rock as well. I think that would have been interesting. But I think in hindsight, everything worked out in the end. Plus the Punk thing, I think, worked out. The rise of CM Punk. I was definitely a fan of that. I'm not going to argue that. Have you ever heard of the band Alexis on Fire? Alexis on Fire. No, I have not. I can't say that I have. But I'm going to guess that I might enjoy their work. Assuming based off of your other recommendations and my taste. But I can't say that I have. We're going to fit in a couple more minutes here on the stream. Last minute conversation pieces that you guys want to talk about. I don't want to cut you off right then and there. So I'm just going to let you know we're going to start winding down here on the chat. Colin says they're a local band to me. They're post-hardcore, and one of their songs would have been in consideration for me. They're very much in the vein of Killswitch Engage and a few others like that. Okay, so Killswitch Engage, I'm familiar with them. So if it's in that vein, okay, right on. What was better, Rock versus Hogan or Shawn versus Flair? I'm a fan of Shawn versus Flair. Rock versus Hogan, electric. I think it's a great match, but it's very much because of the crowd. I feel like the crowd really enhances that matchup. Now, Rock and Hogan, two of the best. But you put them up against Flair and Shawn, I'm more inclined to choose that one. And I think it's mostly, for me personally, I think it's mostly because of the emotional weight that comes with that storyline. It was Ric Flair's final matchup, supposedly. And the history between him and Shawn, of course, Shawn being a student of Ric Flair, a big fan of Ric Flair, and that love and respect between the two. And then, of course, the finale, dude. I mean, when he has Ric Flair ready for the sweet chin music, and he looks at Flair, and Flair ever so defiant, telling him to bring it. And Shawn says, "I'm sorry. I love you." And then he finally pulls the trigger and defeats Ric Flair, putting him into retirement, at least for a little bit. I'll pick Shawn versus Flair, for sure. Nothing against Rock and Hogan. Colin says, if I'd been into wrestling as a kid, I think Shawn Michaels would have been my guy. He was my guy. Shawn's my number one favorite wrestler of all time. Just because of the charisma, he was great as a babyface and a heel. He can go in the ring. For me, he's the Michael Jordan. He can go in the ring with anybody. Shawn Michaels is number one. CM Punk is number two. Eddie Guerrero is number three. That's my top three wrestlers of all time. I don't know if it's ever going to change. I love CM Punk. I don't know if he's ever going to overcome Shawn Michaels. I don't think it's going to happen. Can anyone pass Eddie? Maybe. But Eddie is just like a personal favorite growing up as a kid. He was one of the first wrestlers alongside Rey Mysterio, where it's like, as a kid, I could recognize these are my guys. Because of their fighting style, because of the representation of Mexico, a lot of bias. So, Eddie at 3, Punk at 2, Shawn at 1. I don't think I'm ever going to change that ranking. It'll be very hard. 5-star ending, yeah. Here's another list video idea. Underutilized match types and stipulations. That's cool. I think I could even just do one in general of just match types in general. But underutilized is an idea. Colin stays giving out great ideas. AJ says, do you think that there will be a Shawn versus Rick, but where Shawn is in Rick's position? No. Because Shawn's already retired. Shawn versus The Undertaker happened at WrestleMania 26. And Shawn was in the Rick position. Taker was in the Shawn position. That match has already happened. WrestleMania 26, March 28th, 2010. I know because I was there. And selfishly, I don't ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, I never want to see Shawn Michaels wrestle another singles match. Because I want to be able to say, I saw his last one-on-one match. That's just me being selfish. I don't ever want to. The tag match at Crown Jewel between DX and the Brothers of Destruction, that never happened. I do not acknowledge that matchup. Sanford 5 says, what would it take for you to play Mario 64? I don't know. I'm not a big gamer. That question comes in by Sanford 5, of course, my brother. Maybe. I mean, hey, I'd play it, but my attention span when it comes to gaming is very low. But I'll do a trial run. I can do a trial run and I'll answer that for you. AJ says, oh yeah. Yeah. It's a great matchup. One of the best main events ever. Colin says, the Taker versus Triple H Hell in a Cell was one of the first full matches I ever watched. Wow, what a match to start with. Especially because it's one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches. But also, that match is the culmination of like a 4-year feud between DX and Taker. And it's the end of an era between three of the longest tenured WWE legends of all time. So for that to be one of the first full matches is wild. That's amazing. I can only imagine because for me, having watched Taker, Shawn, and Triple H for a good chunk of their careers, it felt like such an emotional roller coaster. It was like Endgame for them because I knew of the history. I've seen the matches, the stories. So there was a lot of emotional weight that arose associated with that. So I can't imagine that being the first match. That's crazy. I was talking to my friend about being unsure what I should watch as my first full match, and my friend Cash, who got me into wrestling, was just like, "Here you go." Yeah, yeah. So I've had my friend Daniel ask the same thing, where he's like, "I want to get into wrestling, but where should I start?" And I've always said, just start. Watch what's going on right now, so you can get familiar with the current product, and then work your way backwards. But if the question was, I want you to show me a match from the past to get them into it, which will be the ones? I've always said Halloween Havoc 97 between Ray and Eddie. That's one match I would definitely show, for sure. Another match, because I want to cover all bases. So that's like the Lucha Libre High Flying. In terms of like a technical standpoint, literally any Kurt Angle match. Kurt Angle versus Benoit, Royal Rumble 2003, I think is a solid one. TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17 is another one. Some people argue Hell in a Cell 98, Mankind versus The Undertaker. That one I get it, but if that's one of the first ones you show, that's like the peak. And it's like it's only downhill from there in terms of like the outlandish stuff that happens. But that's awesome though. End of an era. What about the old Halo games? It's easier than GTA. It's tough for me with those kind of games, the Halo ones. I'm just not good when it comes to that. I play a lot of the sports simulator games, dude. And we gave it a try. I wasn't good. AJ, Kane's last match versus Gunther. What was Kane's last match? He probably was like in a Rumble as like a final match. I don't remember what his last match was. Colin says, and me with my friend Carrie, I just showed her some random clips of Mankind and Jey Uso, and that's what did it for her, along with Danhausen, who I showed her this week. What happened to Danhausen? Where is he at? AJ says Ray versus Eddie ladder match, first with Dom. Oh yeah, the custody of Dominic match. The first pay-per-view that I saw live as a fan was SummerSlam 05. Because by then we were just watching the weeklies, Raw and SmackDown. But, I vividly remember the custody of Dominic storyline. Colin says, I suck at first-person shooter games. JRPGs and fighting games are where I excel most. Agreed. Basically, AEW is just not using him like what they're doing with Rey Fenix. It's a shame. Yeah, I know he had an interview with Chris Van Vliet. I have it saved. I haven't gotten to that one. I will say I skipped over it and went to Penta and Jericho, which were his latest ones. Danhausen is saved. The next time I go out on my run, I'll listen to it. But yeah, that's a shame about the Rey Fenix and the Danhausen holdouts. That's a shame. JRPG underrated. AJ, did you watch it with San Fran 5? Yeah, we did. I don't know if I don't know if you heard it. I shared this story on a previous stream. Maybe you missed it. But it was in 2005, August 21st, obviously, SummerSlam 2005. I was going through the pay-per-views, and I accidentally bought the pay-per-view, SummerSlam. And I'll never forget, I bought it, like, like those intrusive thoughts kick in. It's like, I want to buy it, but it's like, So I bought it, and I never forget telling my dad, I was like, keep in mind, I was like 7. I think I just bought the pay-per-view. And I'm immediately thinking, oh my God, he's going to get mad or whatever. I'm going to be in trouble because I spent money that wasn't mine. And he just looks at me and he's like, okay, so do you want to order a pizza and watch the fight? And I was like, whoa. I mean, if that's on the table, sure. Yeah. So I'll never forget that kind of memory where it's like anybody else could have been upset. Like, hey, you shouldn't have bought that. But he immediately just said, okay, let's buy pizza. Let's watch the show. And I never forgot that. It's the little things like that it's the little things like that I don't forget. I'm trying to see where I was in the chat here. Colin says, I think Danhausen will be WWE signing in the fall and he'll go to NXT. That'd be interesting. And I think he would fit well in NXT. Sanford 5 says, love the Final Fantasy series. Sanford 5, check out The Legend of Heroes. Oh, see, now you guys are going off. This is out of my realm. Once you guys start talking about that, that's out of my realm. Sanford 5 says, pizza. I love pizza. AJ remembers. Yeah, I remember because I thought I shared it. But I was thinking maybe AJ just missed it. Sanford 5, maybe he'll stream that. Nice. Colin asks you stream at Sanford 5. Sanford 5 does stream on occasion. If you are interested in watching any of his streams, at the bottom of my channel, I have his channel linked up. So if you scroll, if you're using your mobile, if you're using your cell phone, you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find his YouTube channel. It's same thing at Sanfran5. I can add that to the in the description here. Oh, well, there you go. Never mind. Colin already found it. But if anyone else who's out there on the stream, other than Colin, because I see he's already subbed right on, anybody else who is interested, you can find his channel at the very bottom of my homepage. So you can find that if you're interested. Sanford 5's looking back. It's SummerSlam. Jose and everyone loves Rey Mysterio. Yeah. Literally. I mean, come on. It was a big selling point. Sanford 5 says, I'll be streaming to... I see a Sirens. Sanford 5 says, Jose Anthony Davis might be out for the season. Good God. He played like, what, a quarter and a half? And he's going to be out for the year? AD, man. AJ says, wrestle for the winged belt behind Jose. Oh, my God. That's my baby. That's my baby. That was a great gift, birthday gift, though. Shout out to the family, of course. But no, we can wrestle for it, but I'm not going down without a fight. Fun fact, Sanford 5 is the current holder of the Hardcore Championship. What is it now? 15 years running? We had our own Hardcore Championship, a replica, and Hardcore rules. Whoever pins the one, you were the champion. It got to the point where I couldn't beat him. And he's been champion for like 15 years, I think. That hardcore title is somewhere. Speaking of titles, for anyone that's wondering, there is a championship, a little badge right by Sanfran 5 and other members of the Main Event Mafia individuals like Sylvia, Mama Ramos, Gabs, all members, as well as Colin. Colin is a member. As I remember, we gifted him a sub, gifted him a membership. I see the hearts in the chat. Appreciate that. Anybody who is interested in joining the Main Event Mafia, you too will also have a badge, a championship title right by your name, and you'll have the access to exclusive content, exclusive live streams, which we're working on. We're trying to get more people on, and exclusive shorts, polls, and special shout outs in videos and live streams. And that definitely helps out with the channel a great deal. It allows YouTube to see the level of interest increased and kind of force their hand and promote it as a more popular channel. We're trying to get as many people to subscribe and to open up the J area to a wide array of individuals who are either fans of pro wrestling or want to become fans of pro wrestling. It has become the safe haven for pro wrestling. We hold no judgment. We don't care what background you come from. We're just talking pro Sanford 5 says, why wrestle for it when I got big gold? I didn't want to tell him you got the big gold. That's your gimmick, pal. Colin says, by the way, Jose, you were saying you can gift channel memberships. How do you do that? I wanted to give you one to my channel in the same manner. So I know on the live streams, I don't know about other features, but I know on the live streams you are able to gift memberships. It'll give you a feature, and at least with mine, you can do it once a month. And I've only seen on the live stream, and it'll say you can gift subs at a random. So as the runner, the owner of the channel, I don't think you can specifically pick someone. I think it goes at random. But I could be wrong. I'm still new to the game, still learning the process, so I could be wrong. Sanford 5 says, I have the hardcore belt with me. Yeah, because he's the champion. So for example, because I'm looking into here, on my end here on the live streams, I'm able to gift out 10 memberships a month. Colin says, oh, okay, I found it. I found out how to do it. It's during lives or video premieres. Well, there you go. Because I know lives, I knew for premieres too, but I don't do too many premieres often. So, but I will say, I'm able to do it. And Google says you can select the specific. Oh, right on. Okay, so I didn't know that. Again, I'm new to the game. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. So if there's an answer I can give you, certainly I will try. If not, I'm going to tell you flat out, hey, I'm not an expert. We're still figuring things out, man. But right on. Colin says, I'm fairly new to the game as well. Been doing YouTube stuff for 2 years, but haven't had member access for long. Yeah, no, it's a new ball game, dude. We're still figuring it out as we go. But I did say we're going to start closing down here. So, with that being said, guys, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. Wait a minute. Sanford 5 with the last minute here. If you had to choose Undisputed Championship title or Big Gold, I love the Undisputed title. It was the title of my childhood. But the Big Gold. I think the Big Gold, the World Championship, is the best championship. It's the best championship. Hands down. Thank you for the question, Sanford 5. AJ, if by the end of March, Jey Uso is wrestling Roman, I'm about to freak. He's not. He's not, AJ. They're on good terms right now. They're not going to fight. We already had that story 4 years ago. And during the Usos versus Bloodline Civil War a couple years ago. Plus, Jey Uso is going to be preoccupied with Gunther. So, I don't want to burst your bubble, but at the same time, I don't want to get your hopes up, man. Don't get your hopes up. Roman's going to be busy with Punk and Seth. And Jay's going to be busy with Gunther. Yeah. But the road to WrestleMania continues on. We have the Elimination Chamber March 1st. 4 participants have been named in both men and women's Elimination Chamber matchups where they will earn the opportunity to challenge for a World Championship match at WrestleMania 41. Who's going to win? Well, we got to find out who the rest of the field is. But either way, it should be awesome. The Citizen with a last minute comment in the chat here. CM Punk is a master Orochi of WWE. Good fighter, but dude is super creepy around women. He has, yeah, well, everyone has their point of view about CM Punk, and certainly his relationship with women. We do know back in the day, he does have the name Chick Magnet Punk for a reason. Being that he is married, I would hope that everything is amicable and everything is, at peace. But I don't know. I don't know. That's between him and AJ. And also the locker room. Colin says, hey, he is married to AJ Lee, so he can't be too weird, is my bet. That's my thing. I mean, because you see, he's been kind of close. And not close in a weird way. Again, we're going off of public perception. But like with Rhea Ripley, he's obviously a fan. Jackie Redmond, who he's worked with down in like the hockey, NHL. Shout out to Jackie Redmond. But I don't know. That last minute comment there by the Citizen. At least Jerry Lawler isn't in WWE. Yeah, never was a fan of Jerry Lawler because he's creepy. Openly creepy. Not a fan of Jerry Lawler. Could be funny in the Attitude Era, but anything past that I wasn't a fan. Colin, I've met Jackie Redmond a few times. That's crazy. She seems really nice. She seems like a nice person, man. I would hope so. I would hope she had a good interaction with her. I really like her style of interviewing. It comes off as natural. Colin says she's super sweet. She strikes me as the type. She seems like she's really nice. I wish nothing but the best for Jackie Redmond. A welcome addition to the broadcast team in the WWE. Has the personality. Knows when to get her own stuff in. And what I mean by that is like her personality, her little quirks. But at the same time, I think is good with her facials. You know, her facial expressions. When someone is giving a promo, someone is, acting a certain way character-wise. It's a welcome addition. Colin says, Jackie was in the same program I was. Oh, wow. Dude, that's crazy. Small world. Sanford 5. Sanford 5 says, fun fact, I met Jose a few times. That's wild. Yeah. I guess you could say that. That's funny. Just a handful of times. Colin says, she went there a few years before me, but they would bring her to do chat. Oh, okay, that's cool. Still, that counts. Citizen says, he just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. I get it. Yeah. I get it. There's people out there who are going to rub you the wrong way. That's why I'm not going to combat it. It's like, it's all about perception and perspective. And if he rubs you the wrong way and that's the vibe you get, who am I to tell you otherwise? I'm not going to sit here and say he's a saint because I don't know him personally. But yeah. Like Seth coming out and he was like, I wish he was Rhea. Oh, but come on. Like that. No, that one's fine. I don't see any harm in that. For me, that's CM Punk obviously putting on a front saying like, okay, I don't like Seth. We know he doesn't like Seth. He has beef with him. He's always getting interrupted by Seth. So that's him putting over Rhea Ripley. Like, why am I going to get interrupted by Seth when I could be interrupted by Rhea Ripley? Who, number one, super cool, is the top women's wrestler in the company, arguably in the world, is a certified badass. I would want to be interrupted by Rhea too. So that one, I don't see any harm in that one. Sanford 5 says Crush Hour. Down. That would be fun. Colin says, one of my friends who's Australian has met Rhea a few times. Dude, Colin, you know people. You know people, dude. That's crazy. Rhea seems cool, though. Again, another one, I would hope that she's cool. Because she seems like she's a cool person. Her and Buddy. I'm a fan of Buddy. And he's doing well in AEW. He's going to have a championship match against Kazuchika Okada at the Grand Slam event. That's a matchup I'm looking forward to. Sanford 5 says, what if WWE made games like that again with the current roster and NBA NFL with the Street Series? That'd be cool. I'd be down for it. I'd love that. I love that, the room for more unique gameplay. Colin say that's the journalism background. You kind of just make friends with everyone if you can. Right on. But my friend did say Rhea was really kind when she met her. I would hope so. She seems cool too. That's awesome. Man, Rhea Ripley, Jackie Redmond. I've met Ray. That's about it when it comes to pro wrestling. My friend met Rhea when she was doing the indie stuff. Oh, so early on. Wow, Rhea before Rhea. Wow. That's especially cool to say, like, yeah, I met them before. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to go ahead and start calling it here. A near stream of 3 hours. More like 2.5 hours. But still, 2 hours that just flew by. Whenever we come together on these live streams, it's a great opportunity for me to express my opinions and thoughts on the current state of pro wrestling, but also developing a closer relationship with all of you. We've had great conversations with individuals like AJ, Colin, Sanfran5. A little bit of run-ins there by Sylvia as well, who we saw in the chat. Sean even checked in there, so shout out to Sean, who we had seen earlier. I want to give a special shout out to our members of the Main Event Mafia as well. Colin, Sanfran5, Sylvia, just to name a couple that were here. Muhammad was also here. Lola Ruiz, appreciate you as well for checking in on the chat. I know there's plenty of other people. D Vega, Kevin, plenty of other people Dion, that I might be forgetting. I'm going through the chat here because I want to be able to try and acknowledge as many people as I can. If I didn't acknowledge you during that quick little speech there, I apologize. But know that I appreciate you guys. I would not be here without you guys. All the love and appreciation. As we begin to wind down here, I'm just going to acknowledge a couple more here. Muhammad says, I heard Raw might back to the... No, Raw's not going back to USA Network. That's just SmackDown. Raw is going to be on Netflix for the next 10 years. They signed that deal. I do not see them backing out. SmackDown will be on the USA Network for the foreseeable future until maybe Netflix gets SmackDown too. But I do think at some point Netflix might be the exclusive home of WWE. I think that's where we're going to be heading. With that being said, shout out to the Citizen as well. I didn't mention the Citizen. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Shout out to our members of the Main Event Mafia. Like I said, if I didn't mention you, we'll try to run them down. Sylvia, Gabs, Mama Ramos, Sanfran5, the Diva. Big shout out to all of them. Colin, so much more. For Canada, it is the exclusive home. Yeah, it is. I'm talking North America, to be fair. But yeah, internationally, it is the exclusive home. And we'll be catching up with the world sooner rather than later. But for our friends around the globe, of course, my name's Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you guys again for joining us on tonight's live stream. Much love and appreciation, of course, from my end to yours. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be seeing you all again on Thursday's live stream where we discuss the topic of your choice. Make sure to look for the poll, the live stream poll, where you can vote. What will be the topic of discussion? It's in the community tab on our YouTube page. Make sure you check it out. With that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love and appreciation. Everyone stay safe, stay cool, and we will see you then.